Jake the Film Guy, Microbudgeter.com, the site where you can learn tips and tricks for marketing your video production business, and more importantly, landing those 4- and 5-figure deals. I want you to be able to bootstrap everything you need with zero debt to get your video production business running. And in this particular video, we're gonna hit on a topic that gets a lot of search volume every month, both at the website microbudgeter.com and even here on the YouTube channel. Now, if you're like me, you have dreams of being a filmmaker one day, and I hope and pray that you will use these tools for the glory of God. En route to doing that, video production is a great vehicle to not only get more reps in with the camera, with editing, with all those good things, but more importantly, with learning how to lead, how to delegate, and sell people on an idea. Not just a video production deal, but to sell people on an idea. That's fundamental to our development if we're going to be master craftsmen when it comes to filmmaking. So, to that end, in this video, we are going to learn about the nuts and bolts of a boilerplate contract. One that I actually was given during my time in Vegas, and I lent my Herbie Hancock to. A Herbie Hancock! That's right. This boilerplate contract, it's pretty standard in the industry, and it seems confusing, and I don't want you to get scared. Step 1, look at it. Step 2, panic. Once you've gotten the panic out of the way, step 3, you press on. This is something that I'm going to do line by line with you, and while I am a poor substitute for legal counsel, I promise you, if you go on this journey with me, you're going to be a little less scared looking at a boilerplate contract than before. That's what I can promise you. Of course, you want to make sure you use good judgment, good decision-making skills when you are looking at a boilerplate contract. Don't just run it through my filter. Do the homework for yourself. I'm not Jake, the lawyer guy. Here we go. In this particular boilerplate contract, the company is abbreviated as FSC, and I am known as the IC. That's the independent contractor. There was a big gaming exhibition that came through, and it's not like you're thinking gaming. It's Las Vegas, so gaming means the slots, the machines. There was a big gaming convention that came through, and the call got put out by FSC to do an editing job. Contrary to what this contract says, we'll get to it in a little bit, there are a couple of details not included in this PDF that were later reinserted and then we signed off on, but this will be still a good document to walk through, and trust me, we'll need the intermission, but we'll get through this and maybe learn a thing or two along the way and be a little less frightened when we look at the next one. First paragraph. FSC agrees that it will provide IC with reasonable advance notice of the date, time, and place in connection with the assignment, and IC shall appear at the designated location no later than the time at which he or she was advised to do so. If IC fails to appear as required, FSC shall have the right to terminate this agreement with no further notice, liability, or obligation to IC. Whoa. Now, I have to be completely transparent here. I didn't actually start recording the screen capture, so you're stuck with my mug. Well, we'll make do with it. I'm not going to do the screen capture. We're going to do screenshots. And that way, you don't actually have to worry about all of this hoopla. No, tell you what, let's do the screen capture. It's going to be easier that way. Now, in this first paragraph, what it really is talking about is you need to show up. If you don't show up, this contract is useless. This is a big pet peeve of mine. People will come whenever they want, so reinforce when a person needs to come with this particular language. I need you here at this time and be there at this time sharp. Use that word frequently when you hire subcontractors, and likewise when you are being contracted. You be respectful and don't rob that person of their time, no different than your W-2 employer or whoever this temporary employer might be. Be on time. That's huge. Now, having said that, we're going to look at this bad boy in its entirety. Ready to dive in? Here we go. The FSC is the sole and exclusive owner of any and all results, products, proceeds, works, and/or media which may be made or created as a result of IC's engagement with FSC, including any and all reproductions, editions, compilations, alterations, or copies of the same, hereinafter collectively known as works, and of the exclusive right to license such works in any and all media throughout the world in perpetuity. In other words, I took that to mean that what I was doing belonged to them. Pretty standard, don't panic. My work at the end of the day that I'm hired to do for these guys belongs to them. Savvy? Not such a bad deal for them. Number 3, all works made pursuant to this agreement and IC's contributions thereto shall belong solely and exclusively to FSC. Wait, didn't we already talk about that? We kinda did, but here we go, it's reiterated. They go on to say, to this extent that such works are considered 1. Contributions to collective works, and/or 2. As parts of components of audiovisual works, parties hereby expressly agree that the work shall be considered works made for hire under the United States Copyright Act of 1976, as amended, 17 U.S.C. SS 101 et sec. I actually don't know what that abbreviation means. Don't worry about it. Just a bunch of fancy jargon to reiterate and reinforce. Paragraph number 2, what I'm being hired to do, it ain't mine. In accordance therewith, all rights and into the work shall belong exclusively to FSC. I'm gonna stumble over that one a couple times. In perpetuity, to the extent that such works are deemed works other than works made for hire, IC hereby assigns to FSC all right, title, and interest in, and to all rights in such works, and all renewals and extensions of the copyrights or other rights that may be secured under the laws now or hereafter in force and in effect in the United States of America and any other country or countries. They're driving home the point pretty well. What I was doing didn't belong to me. Moving on, number 4, it is mutually agreed that the IC's fee for this assignment is in the amount of $400 per day. Yes, that was the total agreement. Now, I gotta tell you, this was the earlier working draft. We went back and added some new language, particularly the contracting party did, because it says here, plus expenses approved by FSC. A day is defined as 10 hours. That's where it changed. We did an 8-hour day, so that way the rate came out to $50 an hour, which includes a working lunch provided by FSC. This party was true to their word. We got lunch on company time and dime. We got our lunch, went right back to the computer, kept editing. Because in the middle of this conference, they needed to be able to crank out videos to their social media and website. And so that's why they hired 3 of us to come in and boom, 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 cut and slice and splice and dice and everything. And so this company that contracted, this video production company that then contracted me and 2 other editors, they were being loaded up with content almost in real time. Much, much, much more effective than trying to set up some kind of streaming option for an entire exhibition, an entire showroom floor full of new games, and trying to sell, wine and dine these people. And when I say people, I'm talking mostly the MGM properties on the strip to pick up these new games. Now, this was at the Venetian. It's quite a swanky place. They've got a gondola and a faux river, and just like every other big hotel in Las Vegas, they got room to do a show. And that's what happened. We had a guy on the floor with his trusty old Sony, and he was picking up the footage and then offloading it with us, and we would just get it bang, bang, boom, the entire week. That's what this operation was. I wasn't there for the entire week, though. I only came in for 2 days because at the time, I was expecting a baby any day who was in then. Actually, he was born like days later after this event. It all worked out. Praise God. Now, we were compensated with an additional rate of $60 an hour if we did overtime. Such compensation shall be paid by FSC to IC within 45 days, subsequent to IC's completion of the assignment as set forth herein. So it's a net 45 contract, meaning he had 45 days to get his ducks in a row and pay us. And did he do it? Absolutely. We didn't have to hound him down for anything. This is good. You want to make sure that the payment, the overtime agreement, and the timeline for that payment are all written down. Notice how buttoned up this is. Let's move on. Wait. We're already 9 minutes into this video. We need an intermission.
50 kilometers.
Can you back up?
We're back. The intermission was brief. Hope you stuck around because we got several more paragraphs to get through. Buckle in. We're going to get through this, and I promise you, you're going to learn a thing or two and be a little less fearful next time you see a boilerplate contract. Number 5. IC is engaged by FSC to perform this assignment on behalf of FSC. and or its clients. IC agrees not to solicit or accept work or assignments from clients introduced directly or indirectly to IC by FSC. In the event IC does accept such work or assignments, IC agrees to pay FSC the amount FSC would have charged the client for such work or assignment. In other words, don't you go creeping around and trying to steal my client from me. Mind you, client, video production company, me as a subcontractor. I can't leapfrog my contracting party to go to the client and secure business from the client. That's what this tells me. Number 6. If applicable, IC shall be liable for all its employees, their acts, affiliates, agents, assigns, messengers, and freelance assistants for any unauthorized or misuse of the works and agrees to FSC, its licensees, affiliates, and or representatives harmless in connection therewith. In other words, I cannot go and be irresponsible with what I do or any people I bring on board, which I didn't, but it's there. They had this extra layer of indemnity, fancy legalese term, meaning to say, whoo, I'm safe in this instance. I didn't bring anybody on set. I didn't make a ruckus. I did my job. But this is for their benefit, of course. Number 7. IC shall indemnify and hold FSC and FFC's licensees, assignees, and affiliates and their respective officers, directors, employees, and representatives, and hold each of them harmless against any claim, demands, liabilities, actions, costs, suits, proceedings, or expenses incurred by any of them by reason of IC's breach or alleged breach of this agreement. And IC shall indemnify and defend FSC against any and all claims arising out of IC's acts, transactions, and or conduct arising from and during the term of IC's engagement with FSC. It's kind of a continuation of the previous thought. These guys are invulnerable. That's what it boils down to. Number 8. FSC, its employees, affiliates, assigned, or licensees shall not be liable, whether by reason or negligence or otherwise, for any injury, loss, damage, or expense to IC or to their equipment. That matters. Part of the job was bring your own gear. I had to bring my laptop, the one that is recording this very PDF at this moment. And I had to have the software all ready to go. Of course, if you're in video production, you've got the software. So it was a BYOD gig. Bring your own device. We can't blame them if we drop it. Sorry, that's what it boils down to, so I'm going to skip the rest of this paragraph in the interest of time. Number 9. IC. IC shall provide his or her services pursuant to the direction, instruction, and or advice of FSC, its employees, affiliates, representatives, and or officers. Should IC not follow such direction in a manner satisfactory to FSC, IC shall be deemed to be a material breach of this agreement, and any and all monies advanced to IC in connection with said assignment shall become due and owing to FSC. In other words, what this was telling me, Jake the film guy, that I need to jump when I'm asked to. Number 10. FSC has the right to edit or otherwise change the works. IC also agrees to make such changes in the works as FSC may reasonably request. FSC is under no obligation to use the works or otherwise apply the works to any specific purpose. My contractor got the final say-so how an edit looked. Plain and simple. Number 11. FSC shall have the right to suspend or terminate this agreement, both to as services and compensation if any of the following occurs. This is good. Dave Ramsey even talks about having some kind of provisional language in the contract, some outs for the contracting party in case me, the subcontracted party, comes to this event high, in case there's a natural disaster, in case there is some other mitigating circumstances that should require this contract to be ex-nayed. A. IC is unable to fully perform his or her obligations hereunder by reason of mental health or physical incapacity or accident or any other cause that renders such non-performance excusable by law. If I came to this event drunk as a skunk, or if I was abusing substances, if I was being negligent, if I was being irresponsible in any way, shape, or form, they could can me. B. IC fails or refuses to fully render the services hereunder to the best of his or her ability when and wherever required by FSC. Don't come with a stinky attitude. C. IC breaches any of the provisions of this agreement. And D. Through no fault of the IC, FSC determines at any time during the term hereof to immediately terminate the operation of this agreement for any reason whatsoever. Basically, they can call the curtains at any time they want. Was that going to happen? No. The client had to get their content out. So this video production company, FSC, never gonna get it done. Number 12. IC shall be responsible for payment of all his, her, own federal, state, or local income taxes, all Social Security, FICA, and FUTA taxes, if any, as well as any other contributions to his or her retirement plans and programs and other supplemental income plan or program. We were 1099 employees for this gig, and so it was on us, as it is with you, to make sure you are doing the due diligence of paying your estimated taxes, of being responsible with the monies that you receive. No longer do you have your employer picking up 6.5, is it? 7.5? I can't remember the percent, but it's half of your FICA, Social Security, Medicare taxes. You are responsible for the whole enchilada, but you get to deduct a portion of that later on your 1040. I won't get into that here now. The point of the matter is, use a good software like QuickBooks Self-Employed, linked below, and be responsible with your taxes. Now, having said that, you have the benefit as a 1099 employee to write off the gas you spent to get to the job site. You have the benefit of writing off all of the machinery that you purchase for this gig. Maybe you need a new laptop to be quick enough to handle this job. It's tax deductible. Everything that's ordinary and necessary for you to do business, tax deductible. Need a little bit more on tax deductions? I got a video below. Check it out. Number 13. IC shall be responsible for his or her own commercial general liability insurance, workman's compensation insurance, professional liability insurance, as well as any excess liability insurance as he/she deems appropriate to insure, indemnify, and defend IC with respect to any and all claims arising out of his or her own acts, transactions, or conduct as an IC. Again, me, you, responsible for our own stuff. Get it together. Get your ducks in a row, you hear? If you're finding this information helpful, inspiring, or downright depressing, smash that like button, or, as the case may be, IC is an independent contractor, and nothing contained in this agreement shall be construed to constitute IC as a partner or joint venture of FSC, nor shall IC have any authority to bind FSC in any respect. I'm a 1099. I'm not a W-2 employee. Number 15. In the event any part or parts of this agreement are declared invalid or unenforceable, such declaration shall not affect any other or remaining provisions. This is what I call the Solomon Clause. King Solomon, very wise king, said to have been the wisest man that ever lived, possibly in all of human history. Solomon wrote a lot of things. He did a lot of things that were very wise. Later in life, he had some moral failings, and ultimately I think he abandoned his relationship with the Almighty. Does that invalidate what he did previous to his falling out with the maker of the universe? No. We still have a lot of his writings canonized in the Hebrew Bible, in our Bible, Old, New Testament. His stuff doesn't go out the window just because he fell apart at the seams. This is kind of what this is communicating here. Number 16. This agreement and all materials or issues collateral hereto shall be governed by the laws of the state of Nevada, applicable to contracts made and to be fully performed therein. ICA hereby agrees that any litigation, action, or proceeding arising out of or relating to this agreement may be instituted in any state or federal courts in the state of Nevada. B. Waives any obligation which IC may have now or hereafter to the venue of any such litigation, action, or proceeding. And C. Irrevocably submits to the jurisdiction of any such court any such litigation, action, or proceeding. And D. Hereby waives any claim or defense or of inconvenient forum. In other words, we're going to have arbitration in Nevada. If I decide we're going to tango in the courts. I've never had to. I pray that you will do the right thing and never have to tangle with somebody. But you definitely need this clause in your contracts, and you can expect it in the contracts that you sign. The arbitration clause. I talk about that elsewhere. Let's link it below in the section about work agreements. 17. IC hereby acknowledges that in order to render his or her services to FSC and to fulfill the assignments established by FSC, FSC may disclose certain confidential information, data. IC agrees that all data shall remain the sole and exclusive property of FSC and or its clients. IC shall hold such data in strict confidence and shall not disclose the same to others or use the same in any way, commercially or otherwise, at any time or for any purpose whatsoever, except with the express prior written consent of FSC. IC shall take all necessary measures to protect and ensure the confidentiality of the data and to prevent the unauthorized use or copying of data upon completion of handwork undertaken by IC. IC shall promptly return to FSC any and all data that may be in the possession or control of IC. In other words, You got a lips that are sealed, son of Jim. Let's call it a day here. Use this tool for the glory of God. If you're struggling with the porn addiction, if you are a part of that in any way, shape, or form, get help. If you're a brother or sister in Christ, we can't afford to be messing with that evil. And that's exactly what it is. Pray for justice. Pray for an end to that horrible, horrible scourge upon the earth. If you stuck around this long, we'll go into the bonus section, which is just the rest of the contract. If you haven't had enough of a beating already, let's finish this thing. Let's do it. Number 18. IC shall regard such data as highly confidential, and such data shall include any and all other information and works developed by IC for FSC, or otherwise communicate it to IC with regard to this work hereunder. IC shall make no oral or written disclosures to third parties at any time during IC's assignment or after completion of the assignment regarding the works, the data FSC, and or any of FSC's employees, officers, licensees, or other affiliates, except with FSC's express written consent and only to persons who may be designated and approved by FSC and FSC's sole discretion. This is reinforcing the last point. You gotta keep your lips sealed. Number 19. This agreement may not be assigned to another party by IC. You can't sublease your apartment here, so don't even try. Number 20. This agreement shall constitute the full and complete agreement between the parties, and there are no oral or other agreements or representations binding the parties here too. Notice that you need to do the same thing with your contracts. Dave Ramsey talks about this, and that is be an authorized representative.